This is Chris from Spinetti's Gaming Supplies. Today we are joined by casino chip token collector and Guinness World Record holder Greg Fisher to speak about the process of obtaining his world record. Fellow Spinetti's colleague Oscar is also joining us for this segment today. Greg, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Chris. How are you doing? And Oscar?
Oscar, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing amazing. How are you guys?
Well, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it, both of you. So just to begin, Greg, let's just start at the beginning before we get into the world record thing. Where did your desire to be a collector come from?
Well, I started collecting coins at a very young age. And baseball cards like most kids. But I guess when I was young, back, the TV shows had westerns, and they always had, like the saloons had gambling and stuff in them. And so anyway, on my 21st birthday back in 1975, I went out to Vegas for my first time and went into the Desert Inn, and I was playing poker. And I just loved everything about it. The atmosphere, the action, romance, just everything about casinos just resonated with me. And from that point, every time I went into a casino, I picked up a chip or a token, and it just kind of, grew from there.
So, speaking about that, now that you are a Guinness Book of World Record holder, we're going to take people through the process today of what it took for you to achieve this great feat. So before setting out to break a world record, you must get Guinness's approval. Can you tell us a little bit about that process, how that begins, how you create an account, how you submit information before you start even attempting to break a world record?
Yes. Guinness World Records has been around a long, long time. They actually had TV shows back in the 50s. So being a Guinness World Record holder is a real big deal. And they take their records very seriously. So you go to the Guinness World Record website and you create your own account with your password and your username. And once you've done that, then you have access to I believe there's over 40,000 different records. So you select the record, and this one is called the largest collection of casino chips and tokens. You select that, and then you fill out, it basically says, where are you planning on doing it, the date that you're planning on doing it, the total number of chips and tokens that you plan on doing. And then once you've filled out that little bit of information, you submit it, and then you receive an email back from them it's a do not reply. It says, thank you very much. We've received your application. It takes up to 12 weeks for them to review it and approve it. And then in the meantime, at the bottom, they give you, 7 pages of trademark information, nothing to do with the specifics of the record, but more to do with dealing with Guinness, what you can and cannot use of their trademark, what they can use. You give them permission to use your name and your likeness if you get the record. So that's pretty much what you do to start, and then you wait your 12 weeks.
So once you receive the approval to break the record, you were given special terms, rules, circumstances, such as each item has to be unique. Can you give us an overview of the item step and what goes into the gathering process?
Yes. So basically, and the reason I wanted to do this is because you're really blind at the point that you enter. You really don't know, what it all entails. So what happens when you are approved in your account? They give you links, and it's called the Specific Guideline Pack. And in it lists, and I'll go through real quickly, the rules for largest casino chip and token. So the first one is only one chip from each casino counts. Each chip or token must be unique. The casino chip or token must be commercially available. Homemade chips are not acceptable. You have to have 2 qualified independent witnesses to measure, photograph, and count and authenticate your collection. And then it says information pertaining to the background and acquisition of each chip or token must be provided. So then it says rules for largest collection. So the record is based on the largest number of items of a single subject in a private, personal collection. So it has to be, it can't be like, it has to be your collection. And again, buying chips and tokens is fine. Selling them, if you have like a business, that comes into them determining whether or not you actually qualify. The assessment. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
So then it says the assessment of the collection must take place in a public place, open to the public. The collection must be assessed again by 2 individuals. The record is based on the total number of different individual chips. Duplicates will not be counted. Only chips from individual casinos. So, for example, you can have a Tropicana chip from Las Vegas. You can have a Tropicana chip from Atlantic City, but you can't have 2, like I have 15 chips from Tropicana. You can only use 1. So then you have to have a concise, clear inventory, and that must be submitted. There's a whole bunch other ones. So then claims must be submitted by the owner with a brief history of when you started, why you started, and then I think you're going to get into this later about the actual paperwork that you have to submit.
Oh, absolutely. So let's just talk about something there, because you mentioned it, and maybe people are asking what you meant by that. But as you spoke about that you need 2 individuals, so you actually need 2 independent witnesses on top of gathering all of the information and all of the merchandise and all of the products that are going to be used to break the world record. You'll actually have to have 2 independent witnesses. So can you tell me about what that step is for those people? And I know that Oscar was one of those independent witnesses, and we're going to get his viewpoint in a minute on that, but just give us an overview of what the independent witnesses do.
Well, they're not just witnesses, they're expert witnesses. Then that's the key. That was one of the main reasons I went to Spinetti's, is they're so well respected in the gaming community, and what better place to find experts than people who deal in, casino memorabilia every day. So actually what Oscar and Miko were is the Guinness representatives. They were representing Guinness World Records. And the reason that Guinness does that is because they don't have the expertise that Miko and Oscar have. They don't deal with this stuff every day. So they rely on these independent experts to assess whether a chip is, authentic. For example, I brought over 900 chips to the viewing, and between Miko and Oscar, they ended up eliminating, I believe, 6 or 7 that were not legitimate chips. So we had to remove them and then, use another one. So their job is critical. I mean, without them, there is no record. They are the ones who determine that the chip is authentic. They're the ones who determine that, they cross-reference it with the spreadsheet, They photograph it, they count it, they do everything.
Well, Oscar is also here today representing Spinetti's, of course. Oscar, can you tell me a little bit about what that process was like for you being a witness on behalf of Guinness World Records for Greg?
Yeah. So, when Greg came to us, it was like a really cool experience, and all the information that he had provided and done by himself and everything to do with that, I was pretty impressed. And like the amount of information that Guinness needed to begin with was something that I wasn't sure of what they needed. So when Greg showed us everything, I was really impressed at how they did it. But when we were doing the whole process and checking everything, like Greg said earlier, you wanted to make sure there's only one chip or token from each casino, and you want to make sure that it's unique. So like Greg said, there were home chips that don't count, but I think like the experience and expertise that me and Miko had kind of made it easier on us to quickly kind of see if something was legit or not. And overall, I think it was like a really eye-opening experience, so I really enjoyed it.
So, Greg, getting back to you now, speaking about the inventory that Oscar and Miko went through, I think Guinness also, based on the document you sent me, requires you to have pictures of each and every one of these chips and some other information about them. Is that correct?
Yes. What I did beforehand, I went through, I did an Excel spreadsheet, and it had the casino name, the casino location, whether it was a chip or a token, whether it was purchased at the casino or whether it was purchased on a secondary market. Each chip has to be listed. It has to be, they want to know where each chip came from. How did you acquire each chip? So I did that, and then I alphabetized all the chips in baggies. And when I arrived at Spinetti's, I had my spreadsheet, and I had a duffel bag full of baggies, alphabetically from A to Z. And what I did is I gave Miko, took the spreadsheet, and Oscar took the chips and token bags, and he started with A, and he would pull a chip out, look at it, read it. It's whatever... Aria in Las Vegas. So he would look at it, and then Miko would find Aria on Las Vegas. He would put an X by it, that it was. Then he'd confirm that it was a chip, and then both of them would look at it and make sure it was legitimate, and then they would hand that chip to me, and I took the chip and put them in Spinetti's had display racks of 35 that would hold 35 chips. So after Miko and Oscar were finished with it, they gave it to me, and I put it in the display case. So they have to.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm saying so they had to go through all 818 individual chips and confirm them, and then they gave them to me, and then I put them in the display cases. So that was the first step of that.
So speaking about the public display process now, people can actually come here to Spinetti's Gaming Supplies in downtown Las Vegas, and they can actually see Greg's token and chip collection here actually in our showroom in the back where all of our gaming tables are. So come by and see it if you're here in Las Vegas or coming to Las Vegas and you see us here at Spinetti's Gaming Supplies. So to break it down, talk about what the public display process is like, why it has to be put on public display according to Guinness?
Well, the reason again is transparency. What Miko and Oscar do, again, they're the experts. They determine which chip qualifies, which chip doesn't. And then that all has to be done in public as well. We did that at Spinetti's on a Sunday. And then on Monday morning, Sunday night, we put the chips all the display chips, after they were photographed and counted, we put them in the displays in your showroom to sit for 3 days. And the reason for that is that anyone can come in and look, and they can, if they, for example, if they see a chip in there that isn't authentic, they can challenge it. So it's another check in the system, if you will, to assure Guinness that everything is done above board. The experts have looked at it. We've put it out there for the world to see. Anyone can come by and look at it, and if anybody has any questions or issues or anything about it, in those 3 days, then they're dealt with. They can ask the experts. They can ask me. They can, whatever. But that's the reason that they're sitting there, is so that anyone can look at them and, if they have any questions or comments or anything, they have a chance to make them.
So before we get into the paperwork, just a few quick questions relating to those steps. What happens after the 3 days of the public viewing? Well,
in my case, the Museum of Gaming History wanted to make a display, which you referred to earlier, which happens to be in the kiosk at Spinetti's. So normally, you would just take the chips. After 3 days, I would just take them and go home. We're finished. But we took them and we put them in a display at Spinetti's, and so all the chips are there, and my Guinness record is there. I have the witness statements that Oscar and Miko did, my cover letter, my actual spreadsheet that they signed. They have to sign each page. It's there. The signs that were posted outside are there. So it basically has everything. It's contained in there, everything that went into the entire process of attempting and ultimately, getting the approval from Guinness for the.
Okay, one more question, and then we'll get to the documentation part, which I find fascinating. Actually, a lot of people may not, but I think it's quite fascinating, the work that you have to put into this. What is the point of videotaping the collection?
Well, the videotaping is the actual counting. The process, the way you have to think about it this way. Again, when Guinness gets this packet, they weren't here. So they're relying completely on the experts and their credibility, the 3 days of public viewing, and then the way that they authenticate is Oscar went in and filmed each tray. So I believe there were 23 full trays and a partial tray. So he filmed each one. And so when we sent the paperwork in, there was a picture of every chip. And there's also my spreadsheet, which corresponds to that. So if you think about it from an accounting point of view, Guinness could do an audit. They could go in on page 4 and pull out a chip off the spreadsheet and then go find the picture. And so that's a way that they can confirm each chip. They can do as many as they want. And the videotaping is actually done. Oscar did the videotaping. Miko did the counting. So he actually counted each trip, each tray. There's 5 in a row and 7 deep. So he, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 7 is 35. And he counted each individual tray, and it was all videotaped. So at the end, when Guinness receives the paperwork, they receive a spreadsheet with each chip listed or token, a photograph of each chip or token, and then ultimately the counting of all of the chips and tokens so that they can verify that there are actually 818 in this case.
Well, you just kind of gave us an overview of what we were going to talk about on the records and the documentation. Is there anything else that you need to submit? And I'm guessing that process was very, I wouldn't call it overwhelming, but to document 818 items, I'm sure it took quite a lot of patience and time.
Well, that's part of the fun. For me, I actually have over 5,000 chips, and I have individual pictures of all of them on my phone. But in this particular case, it's, well, I don't know. It's not, it was really fun to do. It's a lot of work, but once you're ultimately finished, once they had completed their counting and their videotaping, and the chips were in place, and then taken out, then then the real work starts, and that's the other thing why I wanted to do this is, according to Guinness's website, 40% of all record attempts fail because of the paperwork. They insist on immaculate paperwork. And what you have to do is you have to send in a cover letter which explains basically everything that went into the record. Everything we've talked about here, you put in that. Why did you do it? How did you do it? Where did you do it? Who did it with you? Everything goes into your cover letter. It's a basic overview of the entire process. Then each one of the witnesses, independently, they have to make their own statements of what they did. For example, Oscar, in addition, Oscar and Miko did the counting and the photographing, but Oscar also took pictures of the display each day so that we could send in to Guinness proof that, yes, Monday they were actually here, and Tuesday they were actually here, and Wednesday they were actually here. So Oscar filled out his own expert witness statement as well as Miko, so you have to have those. Then you have to, again, have the spreadsheet. Then you have to have the photographic evidence, which, again, was Oscar put in a PDF, put them all in a PDF file. Then you have to have the video, which is, again, the counting. And then any media articles that, any advertisement or anything that you did. So actually, once you've gathered all that, again, they have templates you can print off, and they can fill it out, and then you kind of download it all into their website. I'm not really a technical person, but I was even able to do it. You download all the stuff in, and then you submit it. And once you've submitted it, you get another email, and it says that they will review your evidence, that they may contact your witnesses, they may contact you if they have any questions. And again, it's a 12-week process, so you have to wait your 12 weeks, and hopefully you get a congratulations, you're officially amazing Guinness World Record holder.
So just two quick comments. I'm going to go to Oscar first. Oscar, looking back on everything that Greg talked about today, do you have any final thoughts?
Not, like final thoughts as in it was an eye-opening experience, that's for sure. Definitely something that I'd like to do in the future again, if that's possible. And like I said, overall, I enjoyed it, and it was something new to me, but also kind of showed what's possible to do in the world as far as chips and tokens, but also the documentation of it. So I want to thank Greg again for doing this and choosing Miko and me to do all the expertise work.
That's fabulous. Greg, in closing, we've done a great overview, I think, today of what it takes to successfully accomplish a Guinness World Record. Did we miss anything? Is there anything else you'd like to emphasize before we wrap up today?
No, other than the fact that I think that Guinness World Records is really is an amazing thing. What they stand for, how long they've been around, what it takes. Again, like Oscar said, the process is very professional. It's very exact. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do it again. I put my application in. Well, hopefully I'm going to do it again. I put my application in March. And I'm going to do it at Spinetti's again in the fall if everything goes, if I get my approval. And again, even though I am the Guinness World Record holder, I can't just go and break my own record. I have to tell them again, what I'm going to do, why I want to do it, and I have to wait for them to give me the approval, and then I'll get a whole other set of specs and start the whole process over again.
Sounds interesting. So for Guinness World Record holder Greg Fisher, fellow colleague at Spinetti's Oscar, and myself, Chris, you have been listening to Greg Fisher on the Spinetti's Gaming Supplies YouTube channel. Greg, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate everything you guys do.